Morning. I made it, y'all. I made it out the house early. So I was out the house at 9. I ran to the bank. I had to deposit a check. So with my part-time job, there's an issue with depositing my checks. And so I've gotten a few checks already. So the last one I got, I had to deposit. And I got an email that the last check I had, I just deposited today. And then they were saying that my next paycheck should go into my bank account. So I got up early today. I wasn't too tired this morning, so I figured let me go ahead and get some things done. And I actually was so excited because I wanted to do a video with you guys in regards to a movie I saw last night. So my focus and attention has been really, really bad. If it's outside of work, sometimes it's hard to for me to stay focused. So I started a book, and I have not gotten back to reading it. So I definitely want to do that. But because I work so much, I just feel like, okay, I'm not going to force myself to stay focused. When I get to it, I'll get to it. But last night, it just so happened that a movie came on. I said, you know what, I'm just going to watch it. Like, sometimes I turn TV on and the movie will have already started. So I don't know what happened in the very beginning. But this movie, I saw like the tail end of a movie that was going off. And then this movie was coming on. So I was like, let me watch. I've never heard of it. It had Gerald Butler in it, who I really like. And I've seen him, and I wrote some notes last night because I didn't want to do the video at home. I wanted to wait until I was out today to do the video. So last night I said, let me do some notes, and that way I'll have a little bit of information in regards to, because this movie reminded me of some other movies. But so Gerard Butler, I know him best for being in Gladiator. He was the main character in Gladiator, and he was in that movie with, I can never pronounce his name, Joaquin Phoenix. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He is the in the movie Gladiator, he is I want to say he's like a captain. I mean, they don't use that word, but he's like the head of an army. And the Caesar, I guess, the head of the whatever empire, I want to say Roman Empire for some reason. But anyway, he gets killed off by his own son. And anyway, so Gladiator is a good movie. I like it. I always watch it up until the very end because the ending is not so, so happy. But that's where I know Gerard Butler in. And then I love Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, Angel Has Fallen. He plays in that whole series. So the movie that I saw last night is called Greenland. And I've never seen the movie. Greenland is a end of the world movie, which I love end of the world movies. Like, it's probably one of my favorite genres. So Greenland is about a asteroid hitting Earth, basically. Okay, so what happens is that they try to, I guess, cut it in half or try to split it in some way so that it doesn't hit Earth. And so one fragment, they're saying, is going to hit the ocean, and it doesn't. One fragment, the smallest fragment, actually does make contact with Earth. It hits Florida, and the effects could be felt for like 1,500 miles. Okay. So anyway, Gerald Butler, he is an engineer. He builds skyscrapers. And what happens is that as they're waiting for this first asteroid to hit Earth, they send him a government message saying that your family has been selected to go to a safety spot. Okay. And so it lists him, his wife, and their young son. Okay. So in the very, very beginning of the movie, he's at work, and then at some point he goes home to visit his wife and son. He and his wife clearly have a very strange, estranged marriage. You know, you could tell they're probably not getting along well. His wife, at first I was like, what is wrong with her? Like, she's so, like, you know, distant, you know. But it comes out later why she's, you know, distant the way she is. The very next day after the movie starts, of course, we don't know about the disaster yet. So the very next day, they're supposed to be having like this gathering in their house, and his wife asks him to go to the store. So while he's at the store, he gets the alert. He gets a call from the government saying your family has been selected to go to this safety area, you know, and only you can go, your wife and your son can go. So he goes home. When he gets home, their gathering has already commenced. They have people over, and he tries to take his wife to the side, and he's like, look, I got this message, right? And she's like, what? You know, so as he was trying to explain things to her, the news comes on, and the news basically says this first asteroid has hit Florida, and they show the disaster in Florida. So basically there's a lot of fire. There's basically nothing there, you know, but shattered buildings and stuff. So all the friends in the house is like, what is going on? This is ridiculous. And then at the same time, he gets a second notification, and it calls his phone, and it also comes up on the TV. So people, the friends that are over, they're like, well, we should be getting one too, right? You know? And so, you know, the message says that his family can go. They can only take one bag. They pack a bag. Their young son is about 7. He's a diabetic. They get in the car. They start to leave. Of course, he's the only one out of the friend group, and their friends are neighbors. He's the only one in this friend group that has a message. They're trying to, like, you know, convince him to take one of the little kids with him. He's like, no, we can't. And so they leave, and they don't take anyone with them. So they get to this army base / airport. I can't remember which one. I want to say it's army base, but if it's an airport, it's taken over by the army, and the army is facilitating people that have the code. There's like a scanning code that comes up on the phone, and he scans it for his family. They get in. Once they get in, they're directed to, you know, they have like 2 suitcases and a backpack and all this stuff. And they're like, look, you only take 1 bag per family. So they're trying to get everything together. And they realize that they left the little boy's diabetes medication in the car. So when they get in, they all get wristbands. So as they scan the phone for the code, all 3 of them get wristbands. So he asks, can he leave to go back to the car to get the boy's medicine? And the wife is kind of standing around waiting. She talks while he's getting the medication out the car. She's like, my husband, I'm waiting for my husband. And, you know, he's trying to get my son's medication. And they're like, what you mean? They was like, anybody with chronic illnesses cannot go. So they didn't even know that the little boy had diabetes. And now they're like, nope, he can't go. So basically, she decides to go to the car, and he's on his way back to get her. So they basically end up separating. Okay, so she goes to the car, he goes back, he gets actually on the airplane. Another passenger sees him with the little boy's medication, and he's like, how'd you get on here with the medication? Because people that have diabetes can't go. Because he said my sister and my sister's kid couldn't get on. So he puts 2 and 2 together. He's like, no, they're not on this plane. They're not on any plane. So he gets off of the plane, and he heads back to the car. She gets to the car. Of course, she doesn't see him. She leaves him a note saying that she's going to her dad's house. So they're separate now. So she has a little boy. He's by himself. She goes to a local store, try to get the little boy his medication, because he's, you know, starting to, you know, get the, I guess his blood sugar was low. And she goes to the store. She gets the medication. People start shooting. She gets out, you know, with the little boy okay, which is good. She meets this couple, a man and a woman, and they're like, come on, you know, you can go with us. They say, we can't take you all the way to where you got to go, but we can take you close enough. So she's like, all right, cool. So she and the little boy get in the back. Meanwhile, our main character, Gerald Butler, he ends up getting onto this truck. He gets into like a back of a truck. I don't know the name of the truck. It's not like a moving truck. It's more like one of those trucks that it has like a cover and it opens kind of like not a trailer per se. But anyway, it's like maybe like 20 people in the back of this truck, and he finds out from another passenger that they're going to Canada, and they found out that there is flights going from Canada to Greenland, okay? And that's where there's a safe space where people can go and get shelter. So somebody sees him, another passenger, this passenger was pretty friendly, the passenger that was telling him about Greenland, but another passenger sees him with the armband, okay? And this passenger wants his armband, okay? So starts up a conversation, basically starts a fight, okay? Meanwhile, the wife and the son, the husband is driving, and he's like, she's, the little boy, the wife offers him a sandwich, and they're like, you got armbands. They was like, why you ain't on the plane? And she was like, well, we can't go with, my husband got separated, they whatever. They deduce that the little boy, I think she tells him the little boy has diabetes or whatever. No, I think she gave the boy his medication, so I guess that's how they found out he has diabetes. So the husband, you can see his little wheels turning. He's like, So he's basically trying to take the little boy, get them armbands too. So they're both basically in situations where they have to they're in a situation, right? They're in a little bit of a pickle. So Gerald Butler, it was a couple guys on him trying to fight him. This one guy had a hammer. They start fighting, and the cover, there's like this tarp that's covering the back of the truck. It flies off, and it hits another car. The people that are driving the truck, they get into an accident, and the whole back of the truck kind of flips. And everybody that's in the back of the truck flies out. Okay, so Gerald Butler is in a bad, situation. The guys are still trying to fight him or whatever. And he ends up killing one of the guys. And the other guy, I think he just injured with the hammer. Like he broke a bone or something. So, the guy that was being friendly with him, telling him about Greenland, died, I guess, between the fight and being thrown off the truck. So Gerard Butler, he's having to figure out, how to get to his father-in-law's house. What happens with the wife and the son is that the guy pulled the SUV, the truck over, and he makes the wife get out. He pulls her out and say, we're going to take care of your son. So they take the little boy to another Air Force base / airport. And he told the little boy, look, do as I say. You gonna let them know that we your parents. The wife has the driver's wife has the mom's broken wristband, and the little boy, he has his own wristband still. So they get up to the very front, and the little boy opens his mouth, and he's like, these are not my parents. They took me from my mom. So they, of course, rescue the little boy, and they take him to a FEMA camp, which is right next door. So the wife, she finds her way. So she, walking along the highway, somebody picks a group of people pick her up, and as they're in traffic, she runs toward the airport base. And she's like, look, is my son here? Somebody took him from me. And they was like, we don't know. A lot of kids came through, but there's FEMA camp across the road, across right over here, and just go over there and see if they have your son. So she finds the little boy. He is being taken care of by medical professionals. He has his medication. He's okay. So they ask her if she wants to stay, there a little bit longer or whatever. And she says, no, I got to find my husband. I'm going to my dad's house. So they hook them up with medication for a week or so. So they find their way. He finds his way first. The husband, Gerard Butler, he finds his way first to his father-in-law's house, and she ends up calling. She gets close, like she gets on the bus. Oh, that's right. When she goes to the FEMA camp and she picks up her son, they ended up putting her on a bus to get close to where she's going, which is great. So she ends up on the bus with the little boy. She gets close to town and she uses the payphone, calls her dad, and they pick them up from the like convenience store where she's at. So they all get to the father-in-law's house, and, you know, they reunite. You know, you can tell they're all happy to see each other. And so Gerald Butler was like, look, there's a place called Greenland, and we make it to Canada. We can get on the plane. We can go to Greenland. We can make it. Like, the time is ticking. So basically the first is a meteor. The first meteor or asteroid has hit Florida. There's a second bigger one that's going to be disastrous. So basically there's not going to be any life on Earth at all. Okay. So basically either you find shelter, government shelter, or you die. Okay. There's no choice. And the second thing is going to hit the following morning at 8:45. So this is about, I want to say, mid-afternoon. That in my mind, I'm doing a calculation. You know, he said that it's a 12-hour drive. We can make it in 9, and then there's an 8-hour flight. He said we can make it. So I'm not sure the exact time frame, but they have enough time. So her father decides he doesn't want to go. He's lived in his house forever. His wife died, you know, living in that house, and he doesn't want to go. So it's just Gerard, the wife, and the 7-year-old son. They pack up. The dad says, take my truck. I have a full tank. They leave. Okay. So as they're driving, pieces of the meteor, and it's like on fire, starts hitting Earth. So it's basically like, when you think of like the end of the world, it's happening. Okay. It's really happening in the movie. So they have to like get off of the road because these little pieces of fire are like coming down, okay, to the earth. So they kind of go into like this woodsy area while they're driving, and they hide or whatever. And they get back on the road at some point. They make it to Canada, okay? They make it to Canada. The last plane is about to take off. It's on the runway. And he drives his car. He blocks the plane from getting on the runway. And the pilot is like, what are you doing? We can't take you. And Gerard Butler was like, look, if you can't take me, that's fine. Please take my wife and son. And the wife is like, no, we're all going together. And the pilot is like, all right. Okay. All right. So they all get on, and it's a lot of people already, you know, they're basically at capacity, but they make room for them, and the passengers are just so friendly, you know, like they wasn't upset or angry like you would expect, like you holding us up and this too much, too many people on the plane. They was really, really friendly and welcoming, you know. So anyway, the action doesn't stop, y'all, and that's why I like the movie, because I like movies that will action pack, like from beginning to end. I love that. So action does not stop. So they get on the plane, and it's at night when they get on the plane, and they're flying, and they kind of wake up, open their eyes, and it's light, and they're like, we can see the island, we can see land, they can see Greenland from the plane. And it just so happened that more of these little rock fragments start coming down, and the plane gets clipped, and the plane kind of shifts a little bit, and it loses power. And so they basically crash onto the side of a mountain, and they crash. They actually land, but they still moving into the mountain, and they crash. And so when they crash front first. And so the pilots don't make it. Gerard tries to go to them and save them, but the pilot was like, just go. Like the snow from the mountain and something else I don't know what it was. I'm not sure if it was a glass from the window, but it's like in his chest. And he's like, go. And he points to a plane. There's a plane in the sky. He says, where we're going is that way. So Gerard knows what direction to take the rest of the passengers. So they all leave. Gerard's like, look, we need to go that way. They was like, it's snowing. And Gerard was like, it's not snow. That's ash, you know. So they start walking military trucks are like, hurry up, we don't have much time, you know, because if they get caught out there, it's gonna be over. So the military trucks load everybody up. They take them to this shelter place. They seal it. And the little boy was saying something about people's life flashing when they're about to die. And Gerard, while he's on the plane, you know, happy moments with his family start to flash or whatever. But they hear a lot of noise inside the shelter and everything. And basically at the very end of the movie, they've been inside of this shelter for 9 months with all these other people. And when they open the door, they see nothing but ruins. And of course they had to wait for the ash and for the air quality to get better to let them out. And after 9 months they get let out, and what they see is birds. Okay, and that's how the movie ends. Okay, so it's like, okay, we survived. All right, so this movie reminds me of some other movies. I'm going to tell you guys what the movie reminds me of. Okay, so I had to make a little bit of a list last night. So this movie is very much like War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning. I saw that in the movies. It reminds me of that because Tom Cruise, his daughter is Dakota Fanning, and he has a son, and he's trying to reunite his kids with his estranged wife when the aliens, you know, start. When in the beginning of the movie, he is visiting. His kids are visiting with him, and the wife went to go visit. She went on vacation or something. I forget exactly why his wife isn't in the same town, but he's taking the kids to his wife in that movie. So it's all about like a reuniting of families at the end of days. So, and then also there is a military scene with that movie too. So it reminded me of that for that reason. World War Z with Brad Pitt. That's one of my favorite movies, and that's about Brad Pitt. He has his wife and 2 girls, and then they take on another little boy from another family when the zombies start. There is also a military plane scene. So that's kind of reminds me of that movie. I Am Legend, of course. I Am Legend with Will Smith. Will Smith is the sole survivor of a zombie disaster, but there's also in the very, very beginning, of course, he lost his family, but there is, of course, the whole helicopter scene and the whole military thing too. Independence Day, Will Smith, where the aliens come and families get separated. The president gets separated from his wife. Will Smith decides to leave Vivica Fox and her little boy to go fight, you know, when he was in the military. So that's kind of like some of the same story. Armageddon with Bruce Willis. Armageddon is about asteroid hitting Earth and Bruce Willis being one of the people chosen to go into space and reduce the size of the asteroid so that it can split and avoid Earth. So that one. Deep Impact with Elijah Wood, where the asteroid is going to hit Earth, and Elijah Wood takes his baby brother, I think, to go to a shelter. I don't know why I don't think his parents could go. I think they can only do 2 people in the family. His parents say, you take the little baby, and his girlfriend ends up going too. So Deep Impact. Wait. Yes, Deep Impact with Elijah Wood. That was a good movie. And then The Day After Tomorrow with Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid. That's a movie about Earth freezing over. And if you're outside, you're going to freeze. If you're inside, you may survive. But, you know, it's about Dennis Quaid trying to get to Jake Gyllenhaal, who is his son. And Dennis Quaid, he plays, I think he's like a weather specialist. I forget exactly, but he's like a specialist in that era. And Jake Gyllenhaal was like, he's so busy. Jake Gyllenhaal is like not a priority, but when this disaster happens, he's like, I'm going to get my boy. I'm going to prove myself, you know. So that was a good movie too. So these are all the disaster movies that I've seen and that have reminded me of Greenland. It's a really good movie, you know, like I'm, you know, someone who, like I said, my attention span is not the greatest. So that movie was really good. The other movie that I saw recently that I was really surprised was so good and that I was not expecting to watch is The Last Terminator, Dark it's really, I'm not going to do a review on it. I'm going to watch it maybe once more before I do, because that's a lot of action. It was action from the beginning to the end. I'm telling y'all, if you get a chance, it was really good. So Terminator, let me just find the name of the movie. Dark Fate is good. And I stopped watching Terminator after the second original. So Terminator 1, Terminator 2, all the other Terminators, I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on, because the main character, they just changed too much. Like the Terminator was all about saving the little boy who was going to be the savior. It was all about the little boy named what's his name? Sarah Connor's son was, what's his name? And the timelines changed so much. So John, the character changes so much, and the time frames change so much that it got confusing for me. But Terminator Dark Fate, there's a new savior of civilization that arises. So it was easier to follow with just Sarah Connor, and she comes back. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back as his character, and there's a new just a spoiler alert, okay? John Connor is killed. Okay, he's killed in childhood. So there's a new savior. Okay. So it was easy to follow. It was action packed. It was really, really good. Okay. So I would have to maybe read it or watch it again to give you guys a rundown. But if you get a chance, go ahead and watch Greenland. It was really good. It was worth it to me, especially if you like disaster movies. I love disaster movies, and probably because a part of my upbringing, as a kid in a certain religion, they do a whole lot of revelation talk. They do a whole lot of end of times, end of the world, what's going to happen, who's going to be destroyed, and what things are going to look like. So I am drawn to those movies anyway. So I like disaster, end of the world movies. I really, really do. So yeah, if you get a chance to watch them, I think there's learning lessons too in those movies. So I always like to think about, like, okay, if this were to happen, what could we do? So this is one thing I will say: if the end of the world were to happen, okay, and of course, no one knows, right? We can all make some guesses about what's going to happen in the end of days, if that is true, right? And me personally, I believe there's going, I don't think the world can continue the way it is going. I just don't, right? Especially when you think about like pollution and climate change and all these different things. Like, I think realistically, there's going to have to be some kind of catalyst to turn things around. So if disaster were to strike, and we've already had a glimpse of this, after that pandemic, it's going to be a lot of people that's going to have to learn how to survive on their own. Okay, doctors are going to be impacted. There's not going to be, okay, I'll just go to the hospital and patch me up, because the doctors are going to be patching themselves up. They're going to be patching up their loved ones, and they're not going to be focused on their patients as much, because if they're going through their own struggles and disaster, there ain't going to be no doctors and nurses. So there's going to have to be things out on your own, or face, being being ill or injured for a long period of time. There's probably going to be limited medications, limited food supplies. Okay, so may behoove us all to, just think about those kinds of things. Okay, not that we want to live feeling fear, anxious, and worry, but I think sometimes to counteract anxiety, preparedness, that's a proven way to reduce anxiety, is to be prepared. So anyway, I'm going to end this video. It looks like it's been going a little bit longer than I would like it to, but I will definitely see you guys soon. What I'm going to do right now is go ahead and I'm going to take my morning walk, and then I have some other errands to run. So I will definitely see you guys soon. Take care, and goodbye.